Most people think resentment looks like hatred. They imagine arguments, insults, open hostility, or someone openly trying to bring them down. But in reality, resentment is rarely that obvious. The people who resent you the most are often the ones who smile at you, support you, and congratulate you, at least on the surface. Because resentment hides. It disguises itself as friendliness. It wears the mask of politeness. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. The Stoics understood something that most people still struggle to accept today. Not everyone wants to see you succeed. Not because you've done anything wrong, not because you're arrogant, but because your growth forces them to confront their own lack of growth. Your discipline reminds them of their excuses. Your confidence reminds them of their insecurity. And once you understand this, you'll begin noticing signs that were always there. Signs most people miss completely. One of the clearest signs of hidden resentment is that your success makes someone strangely uncomfortable. Have you ever shared good news with someone, only to receive a reaction that felt off? They smiled. They said the right words. They congratulated you. Yet something felt empty. The enthusiasm wasn't there. The energy wasn't there. The excitement felt forced. Most people ignore this feeling because they don't want to appear paranoid. But human beings are remarkably sensitive to emotional signals. Often your intuition notices what your conscious mind hasn't processed yet. The resentful person wants to appear supportive because openly attacking you would expose them. Instead, they offer approval with a strange, emotional distance. Enough to remain polite. Not enough to genuinely celebrate your win. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the weaknesses of human nature. Not because he hated people, but because he understood them. And one uncomfortable truth about human nature is that people compare themselves constantly. Even when they don't want to. Even when they claim they don't. The moment someone sees you improving your finances, your confidence, your relationships, your health, or your purpose, a comparison begins. Most people use that comparison as motivation. Others allow it to become resentment. That's where the problem starts. Another sign appears when people subtly minimize your achievements. They never directly insult what you've accomplished. That would be too obvious. Instead, they explain it away. You got lucky. You had advantages. The timing was perfect. Anybody could have done it. Notice how quickly some people search for explanations that reduce the value of your achievement. They're not trying to understand your success. They're trying to protect their own ego from it. Because if your success was earned through discipline and effort, then they must confront the uncomfortable question of why they haven't done the same. What's interesting is that the more successful you become, the less obvious this behavior becomes. The truly resentful person often studies you. They observe you. They may even copy you. At first, this can feel flattering. But over time, you start noticing something strange. They imitate your habits, your ideas, your style, your decisions. Yet they seem irritated by your presence. This happens because resentment and admiration often exist together. People frequently resent the very qualities they secretly wish they possessed themselves. That's why some of your loudest critics are actually your closest observers. If you're finding this interesting so far, consider subscribing. Not because you owe me anything, but because these ideas aren't taught in most places anymore. Stoicism remains one of the few philosophies that deals honestly with human behavior, human weakness, and how to navigate life without becoming bitter. Another sign of hidden resentment is that some people seem unusually interested in your failures. Think about that carefully. They barely acknowledge your victories, yet they become highly engaged when things go wrong. Suddenly they have advice. Suddenly they're available. Suddenly they're paying attention. It can be subtle, but once you see it, it's difficult to ignore. Failure provides relief to the resentful person because it temporarily restores balance in their mind. Your struggle makes them feel more comfortable about their own position. That's not friendship. That's comparison disguised as concern. One lesson that took me a long time to understand is that resentment often has very little to do with you. When we're younger, we assume everyone is thinking about us. In reality, most people are thinking about themselves, their fears, their insecurities, their disappointments, their regrets. When someone resents you, they're usually responding to what you represent. You may represent discipline, freedom, confidence, courage, opportunity, potential. Whatever it is, your existence reminds them of something they feel is missing in their own life. This is why the Stoic response is so powerful. Most people react emotionally when they sense resentment. They become defensive. They try harder to gain approval. They explain themselves. They seek validation. But the Stoics took a different approach. They understood that seeking universal approval is one of the fastest paths to misery. No matter what you do, some people will misunderstand you. Some people will dislike you. Some people will resent you. Not because you're failing, but sometimes because you're succeeding. Leave a comment if you've ever experienced this. Have you ever had someone react strangely to your success, your progress, or a positive change in your life? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts because almost everyone encounters this at some point. Perhaps the most important sign of all is how people behave when you're absent. Resentment thrives in the shadows. It rarely announces itself publicly. It appears in conversations you're not part of. It appears in whispers, jokes, subtle remarks, and carefully disguised criticism. The person who resents you often becomes a different person when you're not in the room. That's why reputation matters. Not because you can control what others say, but because character has a way of revealing itself over time. Eventually, people notice who builds others up and who quietly tears them down. The Stoics believed that you should focus on what you can control and release what you cannot. The resentment of others falls firmly into the second category. You cannot stop people from comparing themselves to you. You cannot stop people from feeling envy. You cannot stop people from creating stories about your success. What you can control is your response. Continue improving. Continue acting with integrity. Continue building a life you're proud of. Because the ultimate victory is not convincing everyone to like you. The ultimate victory is becoming so grounded in your own values that their resentment no longer has power over your peace. And in many cases, the strongest sign that someone secretly resents you isn't what they say. It's the quiet discomfort they feel when they realize you're becoming the person they never had the courage to become.